This is Catherine Cespedes, and you are listening to Yogini from the Block, where we talk about taking spiritual practices and spiritual principles off of the yoga mat and into our real lives. You can listen to this bi-weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, and anywhere that you catch your podcasts. Welcome to episode 22, titled The Power of Vulnerability, subtitled Grow Thick Skin. So my name is Catherine. Hello, everybody, and I'm here with my wonderful producer, John Beethan.
Good generic time of the day, everyone, and happy Merry Christmas and a full new year for you.
Yes, happy holidays. This is exciting times. And like I was talking to John about earlier, it creates a little bit of... I'm just going to say it creates a little bit of stress, right? You know, trying to get the gifts or trying to get on a plane or trying to pack or I feel like a lot of feelings are just magnified in this space.
Well, it's also leading up to the 25th and there's an incredible focus of giving. And you can bucket or you can just jump right in.
Yep. And the 21st, which is today, which is the winter solstice, right? So it's the longest, darkest time of the year.
It's the darkest time of the year.
Right.
Yeah.
So
shortest daylight of the year.
Shortest daylight, darkest time of the year. So there's a lot that could be said just on that. A whole podcast could be done on just the darkest day of the year. And today what I really wanted to focus on is vulnerability, because I feel like this has been a very sensitive topic for me, because it could be, we could say I'm a Gemini, I'm from the Bronx, but really I feel like this isn't just for Geminis or just people from the East Coast or New York. This is something that is relatable to a lot of individuals who feel like, you know what, I just have to grow thick skin, or being told just grow thick skin and suck it up, basically. And so I took some time to look into what does that mean? What does it mean to grow thick skin, right? And as per Google, thank you, Google, they said to grow thick skin means to have an ability to keep from getting upset or offended by things others say. So that's interesting, right? Like if you think about it, because it kind of takes away the idea that it's not saying that you're ignoring it. It's not saying that at all. What it's really saying is that you're basically neutralizing it, right? You're neutralizing it where it doesn't offend you, it doesn't hurt you. But let's be honest, like things do hurt. Sometimes people say things that do rub the wrong way, and those things build up. When we ignore it, you look at it and it could be the smallest thing that breaks the camel's back, where you turn around and you're just like, I can't believe you said X, Y, and Z, but it has nothing to do with that. There was other things that, because we have quote unquote thick skin, we just didn't say anything about it. So that's why I wanted to talk about the power of vulnerability, because in this time frame that I've been going to classes, taking classes, meeting more conscious individuals, I realized that sometimes they still piss me off. Like they still like, and I say that to be funny, but really like there's still something that gets triggered inside of me. And I'm just like, why am I being triggered by such a beautiful, loving person? And it's because, get ready for it, people won't always do what we want them to do. It's going to happen. And we're all living different lives. And this is why I think it's important to be vulnerable, because when we are vulnerable, what we're really saying, we're not saying that we're weak. What we're saying is that we are open and authentic. What we are saying is that we're not putting up a wall. What we are saying is that if something bothers me, I'm just going to tell you, hey, this is what I'm getting out of what you're saying. Is that so? Like, please correct me. Because I realize that I haven't been correcting people where I'm like, I think you said this. Please correct me if I'm wrong. If that's really what you said, I think we need to talk about that further. Like, let's jump into this. And I have been running away from this for such a long time, where I'm just like, sometimes I understand that I've been told that I am too like I'm too rough around the edges, and sometimes what I say can be perceived as if I have an attitude. And so I've been very gentle, right? Like I feel like I've been walking on eggshells. And then I was like, why don't you just tell me then? Why don't you tell me that what I said right there bothered you? And I realized that I hadn't been telling people that right there.
So do you feel like you're holding back?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's almost like I'm walking on eggshells because I'm like, I don't want to offend you, but you see what you're doing here? Like, this is not gonna work. And I feel like I censor myself, which is an interesting space to be when you want to be authentic, right? We all want to be authentic. We all want to be real. We all want to be unique. And we are. Just by you being on this planet, that's it. Boom. You're done. You're unique and you are authentic to your own expression, because no one has lived the life that you have lived. No one has experienced the experiences that you've gone through. And no one can put together the words in a sentence or the paragraph that you're going to put together. It's going to be in a completely different way. And on top of all that, to like really lay it on thick, no one feels the way that you feel when you're feeling it. Right? So we're all already authentic. And so here I am going into 2019 thinking, let's go. Let me be vulnerable, because these walls that I've been building up, they helped me for such a long time. But I am ready to expand and grow out of that. I am ready to live in such a way where I'm not tired when I get home, because I've been, walking on eggshells, not to hurt anyone else. And you see, what happens is that by me walking on eggshells, I invite people into my world that are now walking on eggshells. And so I'm feeling, and this may pertain to you, this might not. Maybe you're living your truth. Go ahead, get down with your bad self. This is what has been happening with me, and I know that it's been happening with a few individuals that I've spoken to, right? So this is the reason why I'm bringing this up, is because we are always finding people in our experience that will reflect what's going on the inside. This is what we're doing. This is what it means when philosophers and individuals like Ernest Holmes talks about creating our reality, because what we're creating is really what we're feeling. What we're feeling is what the universe hears and abides to.
Well, I was going to say, hopefully you're feeling it, what you're creating.
Oh, yeah, that would be a completely different. Let me write that down. You have a pen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm going to write this down for our episode 24, that we are creating what we are feeling. And
whether you feel it or not. Uh-oh, I got esoteric. I think I'll back out of that one.
We'll definitely take a look at that, John. Because what I'm saying is, we are. That is what's happening. And so when I'm feeling like I'm putting up a wall, what I am telling you, the universe basically, is I can't handle anything past that. So I'm bringing people in that also have walls up. And so now I'm walking on eggshells because they're walking on eggshells. And now who's being authentic?
It gets a little crunchy, doesn't it?
It does. It gets super crunchy. Those are one of those like odd, satisfying things when you hear crunches, like stepping on leaves. But in this space, that's not what we want, right? We want to be able to walk in a way that it just feels good. Like walk in a way that we know that I can be myself without worrying if I'm offending you. Because now what that's doing is that because I am building up this wall, how can I shine fully? Literally, how? Because I built up this wall where I don't want you to see this part of me. And so that part of me that's like ready to soar, ready to be, ready to grow is like, oh, hold up. We built a wall. So we don't want to go past that, because remember what happens when we go past that, we offend. Remember what happens when we go past that, we hurt people. And so what I'm saying is that by building up those walls, what we're really doing is keeping ourselves small, because we're bigger than those walls. But in order to build them up, we need to stay underneath them. We need to stay sheltered within them. Right? So this is what happens. And so not only are we creating that for ourselves, we're basically telling other people that that's okay. That's okay. I'm just not going to shine that much.
It's okay for them too.
Yeah.
To stay small.
Yeah. It's since I'm doing it, you can do it. Let's just all do it. And so then we build a cycle. This is the cycle that we create. Like I'm right at the brink of change and shift. But wait, I built that wall. I know what goes after that. Let me back off. Because once I'm past that, I'm vulnerable. I'm raw. There's no hiding me anymore. Right? And there are individuals that have soared past that. Right? My favorite, you guys know this by now, like Oprah. My God. She has done this time and time again, where we look at her and she has gone, like the time that she went to Ellen DeGeneres, her TV show, and she was her therapist when she was coming out. That was big. That was big to say, yes, I will help you with this. Because not only was she saying, I will be a part of this episode, she was saying, I'll be part of this coming out for you. Right? And Ellen herself, where she decided, I've built this wall to protect myself, but I'm no longer going to barricade myself. I'm going to free myself and tell people what it is. Not that it really should change how we think of someone, but it did at that time. At that time, it was a big deal. And she came out anyway, and she didn't find work for maybe 2 or 3 years. And the people that helped her, like the co-star for that episode, didn't find work for 3 years or 2 years. So these are individuals that decided, you know what, I'll be vulnerable. And they were people that said, I'll be vulnerable with you.
And so they led the way, which means it may not be as difficult for others at this time. Right.
I mean, it's still difficult. It's not taking away how difficult that may be, but there is a precedent, right? There is it's possible and it's available, and look at where she is today. Not because she came out, but it's because she decided to be vulnerable, and that would be okay, and that she would be her authentic self no matter what.
So can I ask you, is there any kind of particular exercise you have done to discover your vulnerabilities that you could recommend to others?
There's been so many things, but really the number one thing is getting to know myself.
And how do you do that?
Being alone, journaling. The alone part, I would have to say, maybe people do this, going to the movie theaters by myself, taking myself out to dinner, taking myself to the garden, and sometimes I go and there's couples there, and I have a wonderful significant other, but he's in New York and I'm in California, and before that I was doing it anyway, and really getting to know myself, knowing that when I go out to eat, I am so comfortable in my skin that it doesn't matter if there is couples all around me looking at me like, poor girl, because I'm not. I came here by choice. I could have ordered it and taken it home.
You actually arrived with somebody.
Right. No,
yourself.
I'm just okay with that. Like really and truly being comfortable with being by myself and taking care of myself. So knowing what I like how do I want people to treat me? So this is the way I'm going to treat you. Like I'm going to be so true to myself that it's going to be uncomfortable for the both of us, probably, because I'm super awkward, and that's okay. And that's my perception. People think I'm cool. You think I'm cool? If you're watching, you think I'm super cool.
Definitely cool. But
also attracting individuals like yourself, John, that hold this space where you don't feel uncomfortable, where being yourself that's the bar. Like who you show up as is perfect just as it is. And the last thing is also having a partner that explores that. So knowing that my feelings are important, not only for myself, but the people around me. So, for a long time, I decided to be emotionally independent, which is really funny.
Whoa, what does that mean?
It means that I would handle my own emotions by myself. But it's funny. You know why it's funny? Because because you are having a conversation with yourself. Meanwhile, you have the same lens on. It's like trying to... I don't even know how to explain it. It's like trying to dissect the colors in the world, but wearing glasses in the shade of blue. Like you're trying to dissect it, but it all looks the same. So, and then someone has to come along to tell you, you have to take those glasses off, honey. Like you can't see the colors. But if you don't say this, if you don't verbalize this, like, do you guys see everything blue too? Do you? No? Okay, there's something going on. Oh, I know what's going on. I have glasses on. Let me remove my glasses, because when you don't know, you don't know. And once you do, it's like, those are the aha moments. those moments where the perspective, the lens shifts, right? And we talked about this, I think, in like episode 2, where when you shift your perspective, that's when you can see the picture more clearly, right? And so having Kevin as a partner, he really like shows up. He's like, I'm here. You're going to have to meet me here in order to understand what's happening. And I'm like, no, I got this. Let me just figure it out by myself. I'll come around to you once I've figured it out. And he's like, you do understand you're doing this a lot harder than you need to, right? Like if you just talk to me, we can talk it out to see what you're seeing. And I'll tell you what I'm seeing. And this way, either you shift your perspective or I'll shift mine and I'll meet you there.
Or we both shift.
Right. We both shift where we're like, oh, we were both wrong. All
right. What happens if you take out the right or wrong? And it just becomes a curiosity.
Well, in wrong, I mean, this perspective doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
Like it's not working. It's not to say like that's the worst way you could do that. I'm just saying that perspective just doesn't work.
Or it's not the only perspective.
Of course, there's never just one perspective. Mm-hmm. And there is no right and there is no wrong, but there is efficient and there is inefficient, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all I mean by wrong. So thank you for clarifying that. It was just in an inefficient perspective. Like, that's wonderful that you see that. But do you see that there's also this other way to look at it? And when you look at it and you're like, oh, you are so right. It's like driving. And you're like, there's so much traffic. And then you look over to the right and you see that one is very smooth. You're like, oh, there's not a lot of traffic. I just happen to be on the lane that's not moving.
You're in the wrong lane.
Pretty much. And it's not wrong. It's just you stay there. You'll get there eventually. It just take you a little bit longer. So that's what I mean by inefficient and efficient. Because if you just merge over to the right when it's safe, right? When there's no cars coming and you just merge over to the right, you'll start moving along. Mm-hmm. And you could stay in that left lane. That's fine.
Just a little bit on perspective. There's a saying that says, it's a native tradition to walk in another man's moccasins. Literally, you can do that.
Oh, you just switch moccasins or?
Oh, you just can. Actually, it was taught to me by Jake Eagle. So, on a walk behind somebody and try to mimic how they walk in their steps and their swagger and their sway and their hips. And you can get a feeling for how somebody actually experiences the world to a certain extent differently than you.
Yep. So that's another way. So the tools that we've given so far is spending some time alone and really learning. Like learn yourself. Like, who are you? What do you like? What do you not like? What are your boundaries? And one of my friends gave me a great exercise on boundaries, but just it takes time and reflection where you're like, where did this make me feel uncomfortable? And if we scaled it back a little bit and we did this, would that still be uncomfortable? Yes. So let's scale it back again. Oh, but this would be okay. So here's my boundary right here in this level where this would be okay for me. So really looking at those things in reflection. That's why journaling and reflecting and taking emotional inventory is quite important. And again, we've talked about that as well in previous podcasts titled Emotional Fitness, right? I forgot which one that was, maybe 11 or 12. But those are a few of the ways that you start practicing the power in vulnerability and start shifting the perspective that vulnerability is something to be afraid of and something to be aware of and something to stay away from, and start embracing it. Embracing that vulnerability where it's, what does this mean for me? How does this feel for me? If I do this, how will this serve me? How is what I'm doing now serving me? Is it serving me? And in that way, seeing where we are creating coping mechanisms, right? And where we are creating efficient perspectives in our lenses. Efficient. That works for us. That eases our day. That eases our plans. That eases our lives. I listen to Abraham Hicks every morning. And for the longest time, I just thought, if I struggle and I suffer, when I make it big, or when I'm successful, or when I have the house that I want, I will know that I worked hard for it. And now I'm like, do I really have to go through all of that? Can I do it in a different way? Can I do it more efficiently? Not to say that I'm not willing to work for it, because there is inspirational action. But working from the inspirational action where I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Yeah, it's a lot, but I love it. I love what I'm doing. And yes, I'm vulnerable, but at the same time, I'm very real. You know when I'm genuinely happy, and you know when I'm genuinely pissed off. You know, and not to say that you can go around like yelling and cussing at people. That's not nice. It's just not nice. But just recognizing where that discomfort is. And real quick, last night I went to go get some pictures. I was doing something and the kiosk wasn't working. And I realized, I knew this within myself, that I was so angry on the inside that it just wasn't working. And people went after me and it was working for them. And I was like, why is it not working for me? So finally, I just sent it to the 1 hour print. And the lady was like, if you do it, then we'll rush your print. It'll be done in 15-20 minutes. It wasn't done for like half an hour. But I realized that yelling and screaming wasn't going to get me there. Because how I was feeling alone in my quiet state, that wasn't getting me anywhere. So the lady said that she messed up, and I, instead of like, you know, saying something mean and sarcastic and nasty, I was like, okay. And I smiled. I was like, you know what? I know what it's like to be on the other side of this and not being able to do anything for that person. I know what that feels like. So I just said, thank you. Just thank you for taking a look at it, even though you swore up and down that there was nothing else that you could do. So just thank you. And what happened was that she took like $3 off. I was like, whatever. That was a small win, you know, just seeing that at the end where I was like, it worked. It really does work. And I'm pretty sure if I would have prepared myself emotionally, that I would have been able to handle this a lot more efficiently. But that was efficient enough, because it was either get it 15-20 minutes late or get it a whole 34 hours later. So it's just an example where I was vulnerable. I was very angry, and at the same time, I changed my perspective, not only to understand what I was feeling, but to understand what the other individual was feeling as well. So to express my discomfort that I really need these. I would really appreciate if you went to go take a look at the kiosk so that you can get me my prints, and just being okay with that. So. Just recapping last time, vulnerability is not a weakness. It is the strength in being authentic and genuine, and knowing yourself, knowing who you are, knowing what works for you, knowing what is best for you at any given time, right? So that's where that vulnerability is. And, you know, when we think about thick skin, really understanding what that means. Thick skin is not being offended, which means that we're neutralizing it, which means that right away we are changing our perspective and lens on what is being said, done, or experienced by us. So just taking a look at that, especially as we go into the holiday seasons, because families are wonderful and beautiful and pure, and somehow they have all the right codes to trigger things. So just being aware of that and knowing that it's all good. It's all love. Knowing that wherever we are this holiday season, that we are an authentic expression of spirit, and spirit is just waiting to express itself through us. So being available for that through the holiday season, now and forever. So I know that wherever you are experiencing love, joy, and light of who you are. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, yoginifromtheblock@gmail.com. And so it is.